Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a cold, dark, rainy day here in Boston, and I've got some mail. I thought we'd go through some mail together to make me feel better. It's a few packages here, no boxes, but more could come. You never know. I grabbed this off the front porch so that it wouldn't get soaked in rain, uh, but I didn't see who delivered it. I think this is U.S. mail. Yeah, this is U.S. mail, so I could still get DHL and UPS today. You never know. Uh, Heck, books could arrive with the actual walking around mail. That okay? All right. Okay. Okay. All right. I now have 15 pin-sized pieces of plastic. So this mail haul is fighting Steve right from the beginning. I am covered in a confetti of tiny pieces of plastic, each one as big as the tip of the finger used to pressure it. That's great. That's great. So we're making fragmentation envelopes now. That's wonderful. As if they couldn't get any more annoying. Okay. Right. And the fact that that first envelope fought me and was made a mess is a pure indication that my Vermont vacation was a failure. Okay, all right. This is another keyhole history of World War II. Yet another one. Oh my! This comes out in September, and it features a bugaboo of one of you. Somebody left a comment on a couple of videos of mine pointing out that there's a certain phrase in publishing that has been drastically overused. I confess, I had not noticed, and now I see that it is drastically overused, and here it is again. So if you're that person, you should buckle down. This is called. It's by Richard Asquith, and it's called Unbreakable, and the subtitle is the woman who defied the Nazis. That's the phrase. I was pointed out. Everybody talks about defying the Nazis. In the world's most dangerous horse race. And this is set in Czechoslovakia in October of 1937. Europe's youngest democracy is on its knees. Millions are mourning the death of the nation's founding father. Across the border, the Third Reich is menacing and plotting to invade. In the countryside, vast crowds have gathered to watch the threatened nation's most prestigious sporting event, the Grand Pardubice steeplechase. Notoriously dangerous, the race is considered the ultimate test of manhood and fighting spirit. The Nazis have sent their paramilitary elite, SS officers, on a mission to crush the subhuman Slavs. The local cavalry officers have no hope of stopping them. But there is one other contestant, a countess riding a little golden mare. The story of Lata Bradisova is by turns enigmatic and inspiring. Born into privilege, she spent much of her life in poverty. Modest and shy, she refused to accept the constraints society placed on her because of her gender. Instead, with quiet courage, she repeatedly achieved what others said was impossible and rose above scandal to become her nation's figurehead in its darkest hour. And I remember when I saw this, the listing for this, I thought, okay, well, it clearly isn't the author's intent. The author clearly found a great story and just dug through research to find, ways to tell it. But even so, this is a classic Hollywood movie, right? This is a classic movie. But I had to have it. I love keyhole World War II histories anyway. I'm firmly comfortable now with the idea that I'm just going to read everything that anyone writes about World War II. I'm just going to do that. I don't have to like it all, but I do want to read it all. So we start off with World War II history and a complaint about packaging. Let's see what this next one is. Okay. All right, this is University of Texas Press. Okay. All right. How odd. This is, the author is Sarah Bird. This is the best of Sarah Bird, a collection titled Recent Studies Indicate. She is in an inner tube pool with a manual typewriter and a naked baby. And she's in her pajamas. Let's see here. When Sarah Bird arrived in Austin in 1973 in pursuit of a boyfriend who was hotter than lava, she found an abundance of inspiration for storytelling. Her sweetheart left her for Scientology, but she got to taste a morsel of Linda Bird Johnson's poorly preserved wedding cake as Okay, all right, okay. And this is a collection of writing by Lisa Bird. I am obviously not going to make my way through the pub sheet, so I'm going to stop trying. And the date on this is April, which is about 6 years ago. So I'm not sure why I'm being sent this, but it is a collection of Lisa Bird's writings, her occasional writings. Uh, it's April. It came out in April, so I don't quite know why. I'm glad that I'm on the University of Texas's radar, but I don't know why I'm getting a book from April. They have books on their radar that would suit me much better. Let's try this next one. It's one of these asbestos envelopes. Oh, okay. All right. Very good. This is the University of California Press. And this comes out in the fall, I believe. Yeah, this comes out in September. We've seen this already on this. Or, no, we haven't. I don't... Have we seen this on this channel, or have we seen it on my Instagram? I have an Instagram. A rocking, cool Instagram. This is by Janet Nelson, and it's called King and Emperor. It's a new life of Charlemagne, who is one of the most extraordinary figures ever to rule an empire. Driven by unremitting physical energy and intellectual curiosity, he was a man of many parts, a warlord and a conqueror, a judge who promised for each their law and justice, and a defender of the Latin Church, a man of flesh and blood. Well, yes, okay. In the 12th century since his death, warfare, accident, vermin, and the elements have destroyed much of the writing on his rule, but a remarkable amount has survived, and was the fodder for a big Charlemagne biography just a few years ago. In King and Emperor, historian Janet Nelson paints a four-dimensional portrait of Charles. No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. She's not still working on this book, so it's not four-dimensional. Assembling scraps of knowledge from diverse sources and graphing history's shifting view of his character. The hidden language of royal charters, ledgers of wartime supply lines, rituals of divine ascension, and the very bones of the man himself, each and more serve as individual panes in a stained-glass landscape of Charles's life and times. Never before has such an array or volume of study been assembled on the man who would go on to be immortalized as Charlemagne. And Janet Nelson is a professor emerita of medieval history at King's College London. And this thing, that line, never before has a similar array of sources been marshaled for a Charlemagne biography. Makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. I mean, the person who wrote the pub sheet might think that it is standard. It is the standard business model for pub sheets to overpromise what their books are doing. But Janet Nelson must be familiar with French and German sources, I'm assuming. Let me take a look here just to make sure. Yes. Okay. Yes, she is. Her bibliography has plenty. Okay. Because that never before is a mighty tough hurdle to clear if you're unless you're only talking about English language books. Maybe the person who wrote the pub sheet is. So, but either way, I mentioned on this channel already that we're going to start to see the autumn's bumper crop of biographies. That's when they occur. That's when most biographies come out, especially on big, abstruse subjects like Charlemagne. And that is turning out to be true. And I'm happy about it. They are my favorite kinds of books. We'll move on to this next one here. What have we got here? Okay. Well, okay. I am out in the living room here, and I don't have any accoutrements. So if you're a publicist or an author or whatever, and you send me a book that is buried in tape, I'm just going to have to toss it aside. I'm not going to be able to open it. So this one I found a way in. This is from Tachyon Publications, a small science fiction publisher. And this comes out in September. This is by Lisa Goldstein, and it is Ivory Apples. That's the cover right there, to Ivory Apples. Ivy and her sisters have a secret. Their reclusive great-aunt is actually Adela Madden, author of the fantasy classic Ivory Apples. Generations of obsessive fans have searched for Adela, poring over her letters, sharing their theories online, and gathering at conventions. It's just a matter of time before one fan gets too close. So when the seemingly perfect Kate Burton appears at a local park, Ivy knows that something isn't right. Kate has charmed the entire family, but she is suspiciously curious about Ivory Apples. And Ivy must protect what she and her great-aunt share. Magic that is real, untamable, and despite anyone's desire, always chooses its own vessel. Okay, that sounds really interesting. This has blurbs from Peter S. Beagle, Tad Williams. Lucius Shepard. This is not so much this book, but this author has been praised by everybody. Okay, well, science fiction. I don't get a lot of science fiction on this channel. That's great. It comes out in September, so I don't have to think about it at the moment. And then we have this last one, this last package, and then we're done. This last package doesn't look like it comes from a publisher, so it may be yet another present from one of you. That would be above and beyond the call. What have we got here? No, it's from a publisher. Oh, goodness gracious. It's from Blackstone Publishing. Oh, my. Okay. Okay. This is by Alex Messenger, and it is the 29th day. Wait till you hear this. I already know about this book. This is the story of a 600-mile canoe trip in the Canadian wilderness. That's your first mistake right there. I've done that. The story is a 17-year-old's dream adventure, but after the 17-year-old question, Alex Messenger is mauled by a grizzly bear. It's all about staying alive. This true-life wilderness survival epic recounts 17-year-old Alex Messenger's near-lethal encounter with a grizzly bear during a canoe trip in the Canadian tundra. The story follows Alex and his 5 companions as they paddle north through harrowing rapids and stunning terrain. 29 days into the trip, while out hiking alone, Alex is attacked by a barren ground grizzly. Left for dead, he wakes to find that his summer adventure has become a struggle to stay alive. Over the next hours and days, Alex and his companions tend his wounds and use their resilience, ingenuity, and dogged perseverance to reach help at a remote village 1,000 miles north of the U.S.-Canadian border. 29th Day is a coming-of-age story like no other, filled with inspiring subarctic landscapes, thrilling riverine paddling, and a trial by fire of the human spirit. And this also, we end as we began. This also is just begging to be made into a movie. I have been, did I say when this comes out? I've got all the blurbs in the world on the front. I have to use the back for useful information. This comes out in November in hardcover. And I have been in this author. Let me see if I can get you a picture of him. Let's see here. This thing, even the advanced copy has lots and lots of black and white photos. And this is just his story. He had lots of photos, of course, because they were on a big adventure. Look at that. They were on a big adventure. And I have been in the exact position that this kid was on. The exact same thing. Where you're hiking along in the, relatively flat Canadian tundra, the relatively flat Canadian wilderness, and you encounter a grizzly bear. And maybe in the back of your mind, you're wondering, how could a 7-foot-long, 600-pound animal appear out of nowhere in this apparently barren landscape? But it manages to happen. It manages to happen. And believe me, if you're surprised, so is the bear. And if you encounter a bear and surprise it, you have big problems on your hands. And this kid does. In the pivotal scene in this book, he finds himself face to face with a bear, and the standard hiking mantra is to say "Hey bear," in a firm but conversational tone of voice. Don't scream, especially don't turn and run. Just let the bear know you're there and use a steady tone. Hey bear, no problems here. Hey bear, I see you, you see me. Hey bear. You're supposed to say that over and over again. And the kid does. He does that, and the bear's whole face scrunches up. You'd have to see. There might be film online of what grizzlies look like when they take confusion personally. Grizzly bears take confusion personally, and the bear was scrunching up its face and hunching up his shoulders, and the Alex Messenger was slowly taking steps backwards, all the while saying, "Hey bear, I see you, no problem, plenty of room for both of us." And the bear display charged, which is something that grizzlies do, where they get all theatrical about it and they run right up to you, and then they stop. And the bear did that, and the kid was getting more and more frightened, but he was still maintaining his composure and continuing to repeat, "Hey bear," and the bear fake charged again, came much closer. Fake charge a third time, came so close that the kid could smell the bear's breath. At this point, of course, his hay bears are a lot more tense. They're a lot more urgent. And finally, the last time when the bear starts to charge, the kid knows, in a second when the charge isn't fake anymore, when this is the time when you're going to be attacked. And that's when the kid started yelling for his friends, screaming for help. Of course, didn't do any good. Bears are unbelievably fast. They're unbelievably fast. When they hit full acceleration, you can feel the ground shaking underneath you, and you certainly cannot outrun them. Deer can't outrun them for short ranges. And that's when his attack happened. And I have been in that exact situation, the exact situation of this book. Even down, I'd be willing to bet, I haven't done it yet. I haven't looked at my journals or at the specifics of this book. But I'd be willing to bet that I have encountered bears in the exact same place that he did. And the only difference is that I had dogs with me. I had a large milling crowd of dogs with me. And that tipped the scales in my favor. That convinced... I'm thinking of two encounters that I had. In both cases, the bear made, I think... memory is a little bit fading, but I think I have faced... that in this exact position, I did face a fake charge, one. But most of the time, even a big grizzly will turn and sort of start to leave, start to back away if there's a big coordinated dog pack. Most of the time that will be true. That's something that, grizzly bears are enormous, they're unbelievably powerful, but they can't beat that, and they know it. Most animals can't beat that. So most of the time, all of the time for me, thank God, or I would look even worse than I do, that managed to tip the scales. The only time where I could see where that might not be would be a sow with cubs. Sow grizzlies with cubs are just psycho all the time, and they don't care about anything. They don't care about anything. The minute they see something even close to impinge on their cubs, they just go ballistic and lose it. And just as random chance would have it, I never encountered a situation like that turned deadly. Because even if I had, I was in circumstances like this, I don't think I ever had fewer than 10 dogs. And although a lot of them were beagles, a lot of them weren't. A lot of them were big, rangy mutts. So, in other words, a formidable physical force. Certainly, that physical force on many continents in many little backwoods villages and towns got me out of many a jam. But in the case of a sow with cubs, or a psycho, or maybe an older male that's psycho or just has lost it, those dogs wouldn't matter. They might be able to pull the bear off me, but they couldn't stop a bear from actually reaching me and doing 5 minutes worth of damage, which is everything. That's your whole life right there. So of course I dipped around in this book. I'm going to read the whole thing from start to finish. My impression was not only that it's a terrific story and ready-made for Hollywood. Leonardo DiCaprio won an Oscar by being fake mauled by a bear. Surely Timothy Chalamet playing Alex Messenger could do the same thing. But not only that, but also that struck me, but also the readability of it. It's a really readable account. So as much as it's going to cause me to clench, I'm still going to read it. I'm going to read it soon, even though it's a good deal away. It's the fall. I will probably end up reading this before then, though. There are all of our young men, little guessing what was coming to them. All right, so there you go. That is a mail out. It's almost entirely advanced copies, except for one thing from the University of Texas that is old. So we have the 29th day. You're going to see this in bookstores. You're probably going to see this reviewed everywhere, too. National Geographic, I'm sure, will have a feature on it. Men's Journal, Outside Magazine, all the hiking magazines, all the animal and hunting magazines, they're all going to write this up. This could be really big in the fall. Then Ivory Apples by Lisa Goldstein, a fantasy novel about a reclusive fantasy artist, a reclusive fantasy novelist, who turns out was telling the truth. That has a lot to hide. Then we have King and Emperor, a new biography of Charlemagne. Recent studies indicate a collection of writings by Sarah Bird. I don't think I've ever heard of her. I'm pretty sure I've never read her. So even though I don't know that I can review this thing, I can certainly read it. I'll certainly read it. And lastly, another World War II micro-history. This is Unbreakable, about a woman who rides horses to defy the Nazis. And there you go. That is a cold, dark, rainy mail haul here at the very edge of June. with this weather just is not going to stop. It just is not going to stop. It stopped while I was away, but it doesn't do me any good. That's okay. I've got plenty of sweatshirts. I've got a bed piled with blankets in May, so I'll just do that from now on. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.